After my wife gave birth to our son 13 weeks too early, I thought the scariest thing I'd face was the sound of machines keeping him alive. I was wrong. The night I messaged our family group, "We're in the NICU, please pray," my aunt replied with vacation photos from Hawaii. Nobody came. Not my dad, not my cousins, not even the people who swore family meant everything. 4 weeks later, I sat in the hospital cafeteria eating a cold sandwich when my phone lit up 62 missed calls and one message from my brother that froze my blood. Answer: "This is bad." I did. And then, I'm Daxon Ridge, and this is my story. It still hurts to speak it out loud, but maybe sharing it will help me carry it. Before I share everything, I'd love to know you're here with me. Drop a simple hi in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far my story can reach. Sometimes even the smallest connection makes a difference. Thank you. And now, let me tell you everything. If my story touches you, please subscribe. Not just for me, but for every parent who's ever sat in a NICU praying for a miracle and feeling invisible. Your support helps these voices be heard. I used to think the quiet mornings were proof that life had finally settled into something I could hold on to. I'd lace up my running shoes and take the Bent Creek Trail before sunrise, the mountain air still damp, the world still half asleep. My doctor once told me to keep stress down for Marin's sake, so I kept a small notebook in my pocket, every run, every heartbeat, every ounce of effort logged. It wasn't just habit. It was control, or the illusion of it. And part of me already knew that control would be the first thing to slip away. Back at our 2-bedroom apartment in West Asheville, Marin would be sitting at the kitchen table, pale, but determined. Pregnancy had not been easy on her body, not after 3 miscarriages that had carved invisible scars into both of us. Still, she'd smile weakly, brushing her hair back as I laid eggs and toast on the table. On the fridge, taped carefully, was the black and white ultrasound photo of Rowan, a name we whispered long before he was real. I'd look at that photo every morning and imagine him safe, full-term weight, steady in our arms. I thought sharing that joy would bring the family closer. I changed the family group chat cover photo to Rowan's ultrasound and typed, "Everything's good so far." The replies dripped in like raindrops on concrete. A thumbs-up emoji from Dad. A polite, "That's nice" from Elaine. Silence from most. Then Carla dropped a link about high-risk pregnancies after 30, adding, "Hope you're ready for complications." It landed like a stone in my gut. Sunday dinners at Dad's house in the outskirts of Asheville had always been minefields. He'd lean back in his chair, glass of bourbon in hand, reminding me my freelance marketing work wasn't real stable. Elaine smiled politely, more spectator than ally. Carla loved to compare her cousin's daughter had a clean pregnancy, discipline not like this. I kept chewing roast chicken while Bernice, the only one to soften edges, laughed awkwardly and said, "Every baby comes in their own time." I wanted to scream that this baby was already a miracle, but instead I swallowed words along with my food. Silence was survival. That night, Marin and I set what we called the red rules for the final trimester: no unnecessary stress, every medical decision written down, 8 hours of sleep if possible. I logged them in the same notebook I used for my runs, next to the daily entries on Marin's blood pressure and her vitamins. I promised myself nothing would slip through cracks. Later, I called Jet on FaceTime. From his Chicago apartment, he grinned and said, "The minute she goes into labor, I'm on the next flight." He was the only one who asked about due dates, about names, about fear. The only one who didn't brush it aside. I felt lighter after hanging up. Before bed, I stood staring at Rowan's ultrasound, whispering, "Just stay calm in there." Then my phone buzzed. A message from Carla. "Mothers need more discipline than sentiment." My jaw tightened. I pressed the power button until the screen went black. It started at 3 a.m. Marin's breathing was uneven, her hand gripping the sheet. She whispered, "My back won't stop hurting." When I turned on the lamp, I saw the faint pink stain on the sheets. Panic buzzed through my veins, but my voice stayed level. I timed the contractions on my phone, 8 minutes apart. By breakfast, they were 5. "We're going," I said, grabbing the hospital bag that had been half-packed for weeks. The drive to Mission Hospital blurred into flashing stoplights and the echo of Marin's shallow breaths. At triage, nurses hooked her to monitors, the screen lighting up with contractions every 3 minutes, magnesium sulfate, steroid shots for Rowan's lungs, cold electrodes pressed to her belly. I opened the Red Rules notebook and wrote everything down: dosages, times her pulse, her blood pressure, control. All I could do was track, as if the ink itself might hold him inside a little longer. The doctor leaned over, eyes grave. "If we can't slow this, we may need an emergency C-section. I'll need your signature now." I signed the consent papers with a trembling hand, while Marin closed her eyes, fighting tears. I stepped into the hall and opened the family group chat. My fingers shook as I typed, "Rowan may come early. We're in NICU intake now. Please pray." I attached a photo of Marin's hand and mine, IV lines running into her wrist. The responses came quickly, at least technically. A prayer hands emoji from Dad. A "you got this" from Elaine. That was it. Marin's monitor beeped again and I shoved the phone back in my pocket. She needed me, not empty symbols. But when I checked again an hour later, Carla had posted 5 glossy photos, Maui beach cocktails with umbrellas, a palm tree against the sunset. Caption: "Aloha, weather's perfect." Underneath, a flood of likes and comments from cousins. Not one word about us. Not one. I scrolled numb until I saw something worse. On Facebook, Carla had commented under a relative's status, "Everything's under control with the baby. Don't bother them right now." My hands went cold. She had spoken as if she owned our truth, as if she was the spokesperson for my life. Back in the room, Marin's contractions slowed slightly. I held her hand and murmured, "You're safe. I've got you." Inside, though, something shifted. This wasn't just medical risk. This was the first crack in who got to tell our story. Near midnight, the doctor returned. "If the fluid leaks more, we'll have to deliver." I nodded, clutching Marin's hand until our knuckles went white. My phone buzzed again. Carla had updated the group description. Weekly updates by Carla. My chest burned. I shoved the phone into my pocket and kissed Marin's forehead. Control was slipping fast, but I swore it wouldn't be taken without a fight. The hallway lights were a blur as they wheeled Marin toward the operating room, my signature still fresh on the consent form. I walked beside her until the nurse stopped me at the swinging doors, handing me scrubs and a mask. Inside, everything smelled of antiseptic, the sharp chill of cold steel and fluorescent light pressing in. When I was finally allowed to sit behind the curtain at Marin's head, I could feel the tremors in her fingers as I held her hand. The sound of the surgical tools, the strange pulling the pressure against her abdomen, made me grip her tighter. Then came silence. No baby's cry, just the low-clipped voices of the NICU team moving in. "He's breathing, but he needs support," the doctor said, and the words were meant to calm me, but they hollowed out my chest instead. I craned for a glimpse and saw only the smallest figure I had ever laid eyes on. Rowan, barely 2 pounds, skin almost translucent, whisked to the incubator under a harsh spotlight. His chest rose and fell only because a machine told it to. I remembered my notebook and fumbled my phone out just long enough to snap one photo, Rowan's entire hand wrapped around the tip of my finger, smaller than I thought possible. I sent it straight into the family group chat. "Rowan, 28 weeks, 2 lb, 3 Oz, on a ventilator. Please pray." The message sat there under the ultrasound picture that used to be the group's banner. Hours melted together in the NICU. Maria, a nurse with patient eyes, taught me how to scrub in, how to wash my hands and arms up to the elbows until they burned. Thomas, the night nurse, explained the care time routine, diaper changes through portholes, temperature checks, the precious minutes of skin-to-skin contact once Rowan stabilized. I wrote everything in the Red Rules notebook, even when my hands shook from exhaustion. The machines beeped in an unfamiliar rhythm, but soon I could tell which alarm was routine and which meant danger. I checked my phone, waiting for any sign from the family. 10 minutes, 30, an hour, nothing. Not even a single call. I left Jed a voicemail, my voice breaking. "He's here. He's fighting. Please call me." Then I stared back through the incubator glass until my vision blurred. When I finally looked again at my phone, my stomach dropped. Carla had posted a story, "Just visited NICU, he's strong for a preemie boy." Above her caption was the photo of Rowan's hand I had just shared, cropped so tightly the NICU setting was gone, the hospital bracelet blurred out. Anyone who saw it would believe she had been there, standing where only I had stood. My fingers went cold as I realized she was already shaping the story without ever setting foot inside. Later I tried calling Dad. The call rang once, then slid to voicemail with the gray message. Notifications silenced. Do not disturb. My chest tightened. He had always answered me even late at night. Now even his silence felt deliberate, like a wall erected between us. At 3 in the morning, Maria touched my shoulder. "You can reach through and rest your finger on his palm. He'll feel it." I slid my hand inside the porthole. Rowan's minuscule fingers closed around me, the faintest grip, but strong enough to hold me there. My phone buzzed again, this time Jet. I didn't look away from my son as I answered. I whispered, eyes fixed on Rowan. Everything here is nothing like what they're being told. The days bled into each other under the fluorescent hum of the NICU. Every morning at 8, I'd be there for care time, scribbling numbers in the notebook: Rowan's weight, his oxygen saturation, how many milliliters of milk he managed through the feeding tube. 2 pounds 3 ounces became 2 pounds 8. Every ounce felt like a miracle. Between care times, I sat in the recliner by his incubator reading children's books out loud, pretending my voice could stitch the fragile threads of his lungs together. Life outside the NICU seemed to shrink. Every 3 hours, I disappeared into the pumping room with Marin, listening to the quiet churn of breast pumps and the soft conversations of other NICU parents. Sarah with her twins at 26 weeks, Monica, whose baby had Down syndrome, Jessica, whose daughter had a heart defect. They understood in a way my own family didn't. "We're your family in here," Sarah once told me. I smiled, grateful, but there was bitterness under it. It wasn't supposed to be strangers who filled this gap. At night, after Marin finally slept in the parent lounge, I scrolled through my phone. Dad and Elaine smiling at a concert. Carla posting a dinner table crowded with cousins, wine glasses raised. Weekend lake house photos, laughter frozen in digital frames. All while my son's chest rose and fell under a ventilator 2 floors below me. I locked my phone and stared at the NICU monitors instead. At least they told me the truth. One evening, Jet called. I talked to Dad, he said, voice low. He said Carla told him you two are fine, that you don't want visitors. My throat closed. She said what Jet hesitated. She swore she's been visiting you. Said you're too stressed to take calls. Dad believed her. I almost laughed, but it came out as something closer to a choke. He's never set foot in here, Jet. Not once. The next day, Jet sent me a screenshot from another family group chat I hadn't even known existed. My heart sank. There was Rowan's photo, the one I had sent, posted by Carla with the caption, "Snapped this during my visit today. He's such a fighter." The comments underneath overflowed with praise for her devotion. Not one of them realized she had stolen every update, every photo from me, twisting it into her own narrative. When I asked Maria at the front desk, she shook her head. No Carla Whitlow on the visitor list. Only you and your wife. Her certainty was like a blade through my chest. They all thought she had been here sitting beside me while I had been alone the whole time. That night, as Rowan's monitor beeped steady, I noticed Dad's contact on my phone set to Do Not Disturb. A gray line beneath his name. It was small, but it told me everything he hadn't even wanted to see my messages. Carla had said not to bother us, and he had obeyed. I opened the family group chat and typed slowly, deliberately, "Rowan needs presence. 2 visitor slots are still open. Anyone who wants to come is welcome." I stared at the screen. 10 minutes. 30. An hour. Nothing. Just the blinking cursor waiting for a reply that never came. I locked the phone, pressed it face down on the chair beside me, and leaned forward until my forehead touched the incubator glass. The machines kept humming, the world kept moving, but inside me the silence grew loud enough to crush my chest. The day began quietly, almost deceptively calm. Rowan had finally crossed the 3-pound mark, a milestone every NICU parent clings to like a promise. Dr. Patterson smiled when he told me that Rowan might be strong enough for his first sponge bath by the weekend. For a moment, the beeping monitors sounded less like alarms and more like a lullaby. I wanted to call Marin right then to let her know our son was gaining ground, but before I could dial, my phone lit up like a warning flare. 62 missed calls, 28 unread texts, 9 voicemails stacked one after another, most from Jet. My stomach tightened as I swiped to answer. Dax. His voice came sharp, breathless. Where the hell have you been? Bernice was in a car accident. She's at Memorial. The whole family's here asking why you didn't show. I froze in the middle of the cafeteria, sandwich untouched in front of me. What are you talking about? I've been here all day, Jet. With Rowan. I haven't left mission once. Jet paused, then dropped the words that knocked the air out of me. Carla's been telling everyone you asked her to stand in for you at the NICU. She said you're too burned out to manage, so she's been visiting, bringing food, sitting with the baby. That's why no one expected to hear from you. What? The word scraped my throat raw. She even showed Dad pictures of Rowan and said she took them herself. Jet continued. But I recognize them, Dax. They're the same shots you sent the group. I leaned back, pulse pounding in my ears. The world outside the cafeteria window kept moving, nurses on break, families heading toward elevators, but for me, everything had stopped. She's telling them I'm not even here, that she's the one. Jet's voice steadied. I think there's another group chat. I'll find it, I promise. But Dad said, listen, he said you told Carla no visitors because the NICU triggered memories of Mom. He believed her. My mouth went dry. I never said that. Not once. Exactly, Jet said. I told him it made no sense. NICU allows 4 names on the list. Why would you ban everyone? I wanted to throw my phone across the room, but instead I pressed it to my ear and listened to Jet breathe, both of us caught in the same net of lies. Then a vibration shuddered through my palm. Carla's story flashed across the screen, a photo of a tiny hospital bassinet captioned, "Taking care of our little fighter is exhausting, but so worth it." As if she were there, hands-on, living the role that was mine. I turned toward the NICU where Rowan slept under warm, light chest rising rhythmically with the ventilator's help. The monitor read 152. My son alive, real, tethered to me by more than wires. I whispered to him through the glass. They're building a story where I don't exist. But I'm right here. I'm not leaving. The phone buzzed again. Jet, his voice urgent. They're meeting tonight at Memorial in Bernice's room. I'll FaceTime you in. Be ready, Dax. It's going to get ugly. By the next morning, the truth was no longer a shadow. Jet sent me screenshots of a private group chat called Family Care Updates. Carla was the admin. She posted photos I had shared stripped of any trace of where they came from, each one captioned with commentary as if she had taken them. Rowan was so strong during today's care time. I stayed late tonight so Dax could rest. And the worst, Daxon asked me to handle the updates since he's too overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. That was the word they'd been fed on repeat, turning me from a father into a background figure in my own child's fight for life. I scrolled through in disbelief until my phone rang. Jet again calling from Memorial. Voices echoed in the background, hospital machines, beeping chairs, scraping the floor. Dad just told me straight up, Carla said you banned him from visiting Rowan because it reminded you of Mom. He's sitting here thinking you shut him out. I felt my throat close. I never got Jet, I never said that. I know. That's why I'm calling. But she's got them all convinced. I walked straight to the front desk of the NICU, notebook in hand. Maria looked up from her charting. Can I ask you something? I said. Has a woman named Carla Whitlow ever signed into the NICU to see my son? Maria glanced at the visitor log and shook her head. No. The only visitors listed are you and your wife. Nobody else. Her voice was firm, unshakable. It should have been enough proof, but it only made me feel the weight of how far the lies had already traveled. That evening, Marin sat curled in the parent lounge chair, her hair tied up loosely, dark circles under her eyes. Do you think they'll believe us when this comes out? She asked softly. Or will they just think Carla is better? Her voice broke on the word. I crouched beside her. They'll know, Marin. I'll make sure they know. But Carla wasn't slowing down. That night another post appeared in Family Care Updates. A photo of a premature baby in someone's hands, cheeks fuller than Rowan's oxygen cannula barely visible. Caption: Finally got to hold him today, strongest little nephew. My stomach turned. I knew that baby wasn't Rowan at all. It was a stock image I had seen once in a NICU parent support group. She was banking on no one noticing the difference. Then came a direct message from a cousin. Hey, Carla says you're stressed and don't want visitors. Is that true? We just want to respect your wishes. I read it 3 times, the words cutting deeper each time. Carla wasn't just pretending to be present. She was reshaping me into someone unrecognizable, a father, too fragile to be trusted with his own story. Jet's call came in again. They're all in Bernice's hospital room tonight, he said. Dad, Elaine, half the cousins. Carla's running the show. I told them I'd call you in so you can speak for yourself. Be ready. I sat back in the chair by Rowan's incubator, the glow of monitors reflecting on the glass. My son's hand twitched, curling into a fist as if he knew. I whispered, Tonight you'll see your father fight for the truth. Then I picked up my phone and waited for the screen to light up. The call connected, and suddenly I was staring into a grid of faces. My father, stiff in his chair beside Elaine. Cousins perched at the foot of Bernice's hospital bed. Lisa and Mark whispering in the corner. And Carla planted right in the middle, arms crossed like a self-appointed judge. I angled the laptop so Rowan's incubator glowed behind me, the steady beeps of his monitor filling the silence. This is my son, I said, my voice catching before I steadied it. Rowan. 4 weeks old, still in the NICU, and not a single one of you has been here. The room on the other side went still. Lisa pressed her hand to her mouth. Oh my God, she whispered. He's so small. Dad leaned forward, eyes wet in a way I hadn't seen in years. Carla broke the silence first, tilting her head with a practiced sigh. I've been there plenty of times. But every time I showed up, Daxon was asleep. I didn't want to disturb him. I felt heat rise in my chest. No, that's a lie. The NICU logs every visitor. Your name has never been on it. The photos you've posted were mine. And the story about holding Rowan. That was a stock image you stole. Dad turned to her, confusion breaking across his face. Carla, you told me. She cut in, voice smooth as glass. He asked me to handle the updates. He said it was too much. I shook my head. I only ever wanted you there, Dad. You never once called me directly. You listened to her instead. The air thickened. Bernice, frail against her pillows, started to cry. I almost died last week, and all I wanted was peace in this family. But peace doesn't come from lies. The truth is staring us in the face. I opened my notebook and held it up to the camera, page after page scrawled in my handwriting. This is Rowan's NICU log. Every ounce he gained, every care time, every visitor. It's all here. And the log at the front desk backs me up. No one but me and Marin have been here. Lisa's voice rose sharp. Carla told me I couldn't come because the NICU was full. She said the slots were taken. Now I see she never stepped foot inside the room on their end, erupted. Dad slammed his hand on the table, startling Elaine. You stole my chance to see my grandson, he roared at Carla. Her face hardened. I was protecting this family from drama. Daxon thrives on making himself the victim. Her words landed heavy, almost convincing in their cold certainty. But I didn't flinch. I don't need you to believe me. I just need you to look at the NICU log. The truth is written there. And from this day on, only the people who show up in person with respect will have a place in Rowan's life. I ended the call, heart hammering, the echoes of shouting still carrying through the speaker. Behind me, Rowan stirred his tiny hand, flexing as if to remind me what this fight was really for. The next morning, I filed the paperwork with the NICU clerk. 4 names on the visitor list, mine, Marin's, Jet's, and Dad's. No Carla. No exceptions. My hand shook as I signed it, but when I looked through the glass at Rowan, peace settled in my chest. I had finally drawn a line. Jet arrived 2 days later, straight from the airport, his suitcase still at his side. Maria helped him gown up, and when he slipped his hands into the incubator, Rowan's tiny fingers wrapped around his. Jet's tears spilled freely as he whispered, "He's real, Dax. He's beautiful." I took a picture, not for social media, not for Carla's lies, but to keep in our own family album. Later that week, Dad and Elaine came. For the first time, I saw my father stand awkwardly at the sink, scrubbing his hands up to his elbows like a rookie. He leaned over the incubator, voice trembling, and read a children's book about bears to Rowan, his deep baritone filling the sterile air. Elaine folded preemie clothes she'd brought, arranging them neatly by size. Their faces carried guilt, but also something I hadn't felt in a long time, intent. They were really there. Then came Carla. She showed up at the NICU entrance with a giant stuffed bear clutched to her chest, voice pitched loud enough for the whole lobby. "I'm his aunt. I have a right to see him." Security called me down. I met her by the desk, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "You don't have that right anymore. You lost it when you lied to everyone." She sneered, eyes darting to the guard. "The family will turn on you. You'll see." I held her gaze. "The family doesn't include you anymore. They get to choose for themselves. You don't." Her face twisted, but she turned and stormed off, the stuffed bear abandoned on the bench. That night, my inbox pinged with a long email from her, dripping with self-pity, blaming me for dividing the family. I read it once, then deleted it without answering. Messages trickled in from cousins over the following days. "We're sorry. We believed her too easily. Didn't know you were alone that whole time." Their words didn't erase the damage, but they acknowledged it. Bernice called me from her hospital bed, voice hoarse. "Carla's been jealous of your mother for years. She just found a new way to lash out. Don't let her poison what you've built with Marin and Rowan." The hardest moment came when Dad sat across from me in the parent lounge. He cleared his throat. "I used to avoid you, Dax. You remind me too much of your mother. It hurt more than I admitted. Carla used that against me. But seeing you here with Rowan, I know now you're stronger than I ever gave you credit for." His eyes shone wet, and I believed him. That night, as I slipped my hand into the incubator, Rowan's fingers curled tight around mine. For the first time, I didn't feel like a man clawing for permission to exist in his own family. I felt like a father who had set the rules, who had drawn the boundaries clear and sharp. Carla might return. She might try again. But I knew with Jet by my side and Dad finally showing up, I wouldn't be standing alone when she did. The afternoon sunlight spilled through Bernice's living room windows, warm and golden, casting long beams across the carpet. It was the first time in months that our family gathered outside of hospitals, and the air buzzed with cautious relief. Bernice, still bruised and bandaged, sat propped in a recliner near the window. Her children Lisa and Mark hovered close, fussing with pillows and blankets. Marin and I stepped in quietly. Rowan left at home with a NICU nurse, but I carried a recent photo on my phone as if it were a shield. Everyone smiled when they saw us. Bernice's voice was thin but steady. "I didn't think I'd live to see this day. I'm glad you came." For the first time in a long time, the warmth felt genuine. Cousins offered hugs. Elaine handed Marin a plate of food before she even sat down, and even Dad's eyes softened when he looked at me. At one point, Lisa leaned close, lowering her voice. "When will we get to meet Rowan for real, when he's strong enough?" I said gently. "And when I know the people around him show up with more than just words. It has to be earned through presence." That was when Carla appeared at my side. She had been hovering in the background all evening, waiting for the right moment. In the kitchen, she approached with her familiar smile that never reached her eyes. "Well, thank God it's all over now. The baby's fine, you're fine, we can move past it." I set my plate down and faced her. "No, Carla, it's not over. It was never just about the baby's health. You lied to the family, stole photos of my son, and left us alone in the NICU while you pretended to be there." She raised her eyebrows, voice sharp but still feigning innocence. "I did it to protect everyone from the drama. You know how you can be. I leaned closer, keeping my voice steady. Family isn't about who shares blood. It's about who shows up when the door slams shut. That wasn't you. The room grew quiet as Bernice spoke from her chair. Carla, I can't forgive what you did. I kept quiet before to keep peace, but peace built on lies isn't worth anything. Murmurs rippled through the room. A cousin spoke up. You told us not to come. You said Dax didn't want us there. Now we know. The walls of Carla's facade cracked. She clutched her glass of wine, then set it down hard on the counter. Her face flushed as she spat. Fine. Believe whatever story you want. I tried to hold this family together, but you'll regret pushing me out. She stormed toward the door, leaving the stuffed bear she once brought at the NICU still slumped in a corner. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by Bernice's sigh. I stepped back into the living room, lifted my phone, and showed Rowan's latest photo, eyes closed, wrapped in a blanket, tiny but thriving. This is my son. And this is my family, the people here who choose to stand beside us, not just narrate from afar. Applause rose soft but steady, filling the space with something real. For the first time in months, I felt the air clear. A week later, the day finally came. Rowan weighed 5 pounds, 2 ounces, strong enough to breathe without machines, stable enough to leave the NICU. Maria met us at the door with discharge papers and a smile that carried both pride and warning. You've learned everything you need, Daxon. Trust yourself. You're ready. I held Rowan against my chest, his tiny breaths warming my shirt, and for the first time since the day he was born, I felt the world open instead of close in. Marin's hand slipped into mine, her grip steady. We walked through the NICU doors one last time, the beeping fading behind us. Each step forward felt like crossing a line between fear and a new kind of life. When we reached our apartment in Asheville, Jet was waiting. He had strung soft yellow lights across the nursery, a warm glow welcoming Rowan home. On the dresser, preemie clothes were folded neatly. In the fridge, meals waited, prepared by Dad and Elaine, who had slipped in quietly that morning. No speeches, no grand gestures, just quiet action. It was the kind of presence I had begged for months ago. I laid Rowan gently into the bassinet, the lights casting a golden halo around him. Marin pressed her forehead to mine. We're really home, she whispered. I opened my laptop to a video call with Bernice. She smiled wide, waving with her bandaged arm. He looks strong, Dax. You did good. Flowers from the NICU mothers arrived that afternoon, brightening the room with colors that outshone any staged family post I had seen online. As the house quieted and Rowan slept, I looked around at the circle that remained. Jet on the couch, Dad setting down groceries, Elaine folding blankets, Marin dozing beside the bassinet. These were the ones who chose to be here. These were the ones who earned the word family. In the stillness, Dad's voice broke through. Son, he said softly, I'm proud of how you protected them. I should have told you that a long time ago. My throat tightened, but I nodded. The words had been missing my whole life, but now they landed like a healing salve. I sat by Rowan, the Red Rules notebook closed beside his bed, and whispered, You'll grow up knowing family isn't guaranteed. It's chosen, it's proven, and it's fought for. You'll know you were loved from the start, and that your father never let anyone write your story, but us. I watched his tiny chest rise and fall, the bassinet bathed in golden light, the hum of life outside our window. For the first time, peace wasn't borrowed or begged. It was ours. When I look back on everything, the empty cafeteria meals, the silence of my phone when I begged for help, the lies that turned me into a ghost in my own story, I realize it was never just about surviving the NICU. It was about finding out who truly stands with you when life strips away every excuse. For weeks, I sat beside machines that kept my son alive, believing family would show up only to discover some were busy curating a version of reality that excluded me altogether. That wound cut deep, but it also taught me something no book, no doctor, no pastor could ever teach. Family is not inherited, it is chosen. The NICU became my battlefield, my classroom, and my confessional. I learned to measure hope in ounces, to hear alarms not as terror but as language, and to trust that even when the world outside turned its back, a 2-pound child's grip on my finger could anchor me. In that tiny grasp, I found courage. In Marine's quiet strength, I found love sharpened by fire. In Jet's unwavering calls, I found loyalty that distance couldn't fracture. And in Dad's late but honest words, I found healing I never thought possible. Carla's betrayal will linger, but it no longer defines me. What defines me now is Rowan's steady breathing as he sleeps in his crib, the glow of a home filled with chosen presence, and the knowledge that no lie can erase the truth of who was there and who was not. I'm sharing this story not just to remember, but because I know there are others sitting in hospital corridors scrolling through their phones wondering why no one answers. If you've ever felt invisible in your own storm, I see you. You are not alone. Before you go, I'd love to know you're here with me. Drop a simple hi in the comments or let me know where you're watching from. It matters more than you think. It reminds me that stories like mine reach hearts far beyond one hospital room. And if this touched you, please subscribe. Your support doesn't just lift my voice, it makes sure that other parents fighting in silence know their story deserves to be heard too. Thank you for listening. And thank you for proving that presence even in words still matters.